I'm hoping he has another good weapon. You may know what this is from the title of the video. I don't, because, well, I have that. Ooh, better percentage than that. No, wait, I've got that with a better percentage than that. Good, good, good. These have just changed. Oh, I would like that. Which leaves my hopes and dreams all lay on you. And it looks like you have... Is that magnetic? Oh, ice would be a great bonus effect, because the bonus effect on these changes all the time, and it has 53% heat. Heat. Of all things, heat. This is where I would pick up that. Not a problem. But I don't think I can ignore the 53%. That's fine. I thought it was radiation. It's not. It's electrical based. Which could work out pretty well if it wasn't for a handful of major problems that this is going to have. There isn't exactly a lot of stances for this. There's two. And I'm guessing 11th Storm is probably the easiest to get since I've got 7 of them. Which leaves that, which I will probably end up leaving in there. And there's no polarities to the Tenet melee weapons because, as you probably guessed it, they are Tenet weapons and you have to former them 5 times. As you could probably guess at this point, Sacrificial Pressure Point and Sacrificial Steel are definitely a must, simply because with 5 former there's no point wasting an Umbral former to do this, and there's no point not running those, because the added crit with the fact this thing near enough gets to 100% status anyway, and that's just with the 4 dual stat elemental mods. Yet again, the combination I have for it doesn't really matter, because you can swap it up for whatever enemy you're going up against. That was actually a great choice. Wait. Let go. Thank you. Corrosive or Blast, or Radiation or Viral. You can run it however you want to. I did find the Primed Fury helped this thing an absolute ton. How you actually run this would be completely up to you, however, because, yeah, you could swap that out and you can go for 11th Storm instead of Final Harbinger. That doesn't really matter too much, but mod-wise, I would say Sacrificial Pressure Point, Sacrificial Steel, the 4 elemental mods aren't necessarily a must. Organ Shatter kind of goes in there, which just leaves the 1 mod slot to, well, there's a lot of them, and if it was over 100%, I may have been tempted on Condition Overload, but since they kind of nerf that just a little bit, I'd rather have the attack speed, because the faster it attacks, the higher DPS it'll do, and it's not like me to talk DPS anyway. But considering this is the 6th Sword and Board, or Sword and Shield, or however you want to call them, yeah, this is... I was undecided for the longest of time. I mean, the Cobra and Crane has technically more damage, but this has the electrical bonus on it that does add just that little bit more. Plus this has a lot more crit than that does, but less status. The Sigma and Octantis does less damage than this does. The Silver and Aegis does less damage than this does. Technically the Prime does more damage and more crit and more status though. But I would still take this over the Silver and Aegis Prime, down to the fact that, well, this has got a 0.917 base attack speed. The Silver and Aegis Prime has a 0.750, meaning it is a lot slower. So it may do more damage and it may have more crit, but it's much slower. Which is where the fact I mentioned DPS earlier comes into play with this thing, because, well, damage per second is kind of a huge thing with dealing damage to enemies. Yeah, I'm regretting saying that as I was starting to say it. But it is sadly true. And that's why I'm calling this thing the best sword and board so far in the game. I was really hard up on actually calling it this, simply that down to the fact that the Sigma and Octantis, yes, it has 4% more crit, 0.2 more multiplier, way less status, and it does near enough 100 and, well, no, sorry, it's more like 86 less damage than this does in total, It does have slash and puncture that this doesn't. This thing is basically just an impact based shield, which is where this thing starts to fall on its face, and why a lot of people will disagree that this is possibly the best sword and board out there. It simply comes down to the fact that it is just an impact based, because it has a hammer instead of a sword. Sigma and Octantis has a sword, so it has slash and it has puncture. The Cobra and Crane, same thing, but it doesn't have slash, that just has impact and puncture. So does the Akenbrunt, has slash, has puncture. Silver and Ages is where this all goes horribly wrong. That thing is just heat based. If you actually go and have a look at the Silver and Ages, because a lot of people would disagree with me on this one, the standard one has 98 damage and it's just heat. This is better than that in every single way. But the Silver and Ages Prime is exactly the same. But it is more damage to the heat. Even though, as mentioned, has more status, has more crit, it is still just heat based. Whereas this has impact, and my variation has electricity. Yours may have a different perk to it. You can get this with many different perks on it. All different elements are available on it. You just have to keep an eye on when Ergo Glast actually brings the damn things, because he just doesn't bring good rolls that often. Which is why I'm really glad I ended up with a 52.8%. It may be fire based, but that is fire based on top of the electricity and the impact that this has inert on it, which takes the damage higher. As you probably saw at the beginning of this, the standard damage of this was 397, whereas the Silver and Ages is 318. Yep, just quickly went and checked. Yes, it's 318 and it's just heat. Which is why I still want to turn around here and say the Sigma and Octantis is better. It has a higher attack speed of 1.08, as mentioned before. This is 0.917. It has a higher crit chance, it has lower status, but it may do less damage. It has puncture, it has slash, it does nearly 200 less damage. I think just the fact that this has any bonus to it on top of its standard 260 damage, yeah, it means that it is going to be the most damaging of all of them. You could probably put a slash mod and a puncture mod on, but it could be kind of massively pointless. But the Sigma and Octantis, not the Silver and Ages, the Sigma and Octantis you can throw. And I love the fact you can throw it. Yes, you can... Oh, I'm trying to remember how they word this. Heavy attack that launches a devastating energy spike in front of you that is kind of similar to the Silver and Octantis, which is the only reason I am saying this has got to be the best sword and board. It falls on its face with the lack of puncture and slash, but it makes up for it because the heavy attack launches a devastating energy disc forwards. The Sigma and Octantis you can throw. The Tenet Agendus shoots energy from it, which makes up for the fact that it doesn't have the rest of it. But with a 60% perk on this thing, it would be much better. Mine's only 52.8, the best of the Tenet weapons I've got completely so far. I'm just having zero luck to those things. Plus, when I did get a good one, I accidentally converted instead of taking them out. Which sucks, because you don't get the weapon if you do that. But that was for a natural weapon, not for the melee weapons. The melee weapons, I haven't upgraded any of them because I always miss when there is a good roll for these. So the Tenet and Agendus, just the fact that it doesn't have slash and puncture isn't the bad side about this. I think the attack speed has probably got to be the worst part of this. The rest of it is great. And that's simply down to the fact of why I'm saying this has got to be the best sword and board out there, because it has the damage, it has the ability to shoot something forward like the Sigma and Octantis. It takes everything good about all of the sword and boards, combines them into one and says, here you go. And then you have the bonus damage that goes on top of that, making something that was good even better. This just has to be one of the, if not the best, sword and board out there so far. I hope this means they're going to release more of these that are better than this in the future, hopefully sooner rather than later, considering in total there's only really 5 variants: the Akenbrunt, Cobra and Crane, Sigma and Octantis, Silver and Aegis, and now the Tenet Agendus. And the Tenet Agendus kind of dominates all of them, because that heavy attack shooting the disc forward may not be as visually appealing as the Sigma and Octantis, but the Tenet Agendus, oh yes, definitely up there. And with that, we've gone on way too long, so we'll leave this off here. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time.